Yes, Mataji, are good to go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam from ISKCON of Naperville. Today we'll be studying verses 40 and 41 from from chapter 21 of Canto 3. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes, the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So I'll share my screen. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So again, reading from Canto 3, Chapter 21, text 40 and 41. Punyadrumalata jalaihi kujat punyamrigadvijaihi सर्वर्तुफलपुष्पाद्यं वनराजी श्रियान्वितं पुण्यद्रुमलताजालैः कूजत्पुण्यमृगद्विजैः सर्वर्तुफलपुष्पाद्यं वनराजी श्रियान्वितं Punya pious, Druma of trees, Lata of creepers, Jalaihi with clusters, Kujat uttering cries, Punya pious, Mriga animals, Dvijaihi with birds, Sarva in all, Ritu seasons, Phala in fruits, Pushpa in flowers, Adyam rich, Vanaraji of groves of trees, Shriya by the beauty, Anvitam adorned. I'll read the next, I'll do the Sanskrit of the next verse too. Oops. Matta dvijaganayirghushtam, Matta bhramara vibhramam, Matta barhi natatopam, Ahvayan matta kokilam. मत्तद्विजगणैर्घुष्टं मत्तभ्रमरविभ्रमं मत्तबर्हि नटाटोपम् आह्वयन् मत्तकोकिलम्. Matta overjoyed, Dvija of birds, Ganaihi by flocks, Ghushtam resounded, Matta intoxicated, Bhramara of bees, Vibhramam wandering, Matta maddened, Barhi of peacocks, Nata of dancers, Atopam pride, Ahvayat calling one another, Matta merry, Kokilam cuckoos. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The shore of the lake was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in fruits and flowers of all seasons, that afforded shelter to pious animals and birds, which uttered various cries. It was adorned by the beauty of groves of forest trees. It is stated here that Bindu Sarovar was surrounded by pious trees and birds. As there are different classes of men in human society, some pious and virtuous, and some impious and sinful, so also among trees and birds there are the pious and the impious. Trees which do not bear nice fruit or flowers are considered impious, and the birds which are very nasty, such as crows, are considered impious. In the land surrounding Bindu Sarovar, there was not a single impious bird or tree. Every tree bore fruits and flowers, and every bird sang the glories of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Purport to text 41, text and translation and purport. The area resounded with notes of overjoyed birds. Intoxicated bees wandered there. Intoxicated peacocks proudly danced, and merry cuckoos called one another. The beauty of pleasant sound heard in the area surrounding Lake Bindusarovar is described here. After drinking honey, the black bees became maddened and they hummed in intoxication. Merry peacocks danced just like actors and actresses, and merry cuckoos called their mates very nicely. So, once again, just the translation to text 40 and 41. The shore of the lake was surrounded by clusters of pious trees and creepers, rich in fruits and flowers of all seasons, that afforded shelter to pious animals and birds, which uttered various cries. It was adorned by the beauty of groves of forest trees. The area resounded with notes of overjoyed birds. Intoxicated bees wandered there. Intoxicated peacocks proudly danced, and merry cuckoos called one another. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Namni Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namni Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So the context is that Kardama Muni is in the forest. He has done his penance for a long time, like 10,000 years. The Supreme Lord has come. The Lord was very pleased. Kardama Muni has placed his request, which is to find a suitable wife. And the Lord, pleased with his mood, it is said that in the previous few verses, when I talked about Bindu Sarovar, it is called as Bindu Sarovar because a drops of tears, of Lord's tears, fell over there and it formed that lake. So indeed, the place is charged with spiritual potency because the Supreme Lord himself has come. And now, after this whole scene is described, we will hear how Swayambhuva Manu, he would arrive and he would be speaking with Kardama Muni. So we are in between, we are in the transition. So Kardama Muni has just spoken with the Lord, and now he's going to he's going to be visited by the emperor of the universe at that time, the Swayambhuva Manu. But how is that area? How is that place? That is what is being described here. So the atmosphere is described as something very, very pleasing. The trees are described, the fruits and creepers and the birds, they are all being described over here. So the purports, as we read, are very, very concise. And so whatever I'm going to speak is what I felt inspired by these two verses. And the first thing is about this atmosphere or the environment that is being described here. So what environment we are affects our consciousness. And the other way is also true. Our consciousness is seen in our environment, right? In fact, one thing that I've heard is that Prabhupada says a Brahmana is one who leaves a place cleaner than how he found it. As we hear some devotees are able to do it, as they keep cooking, they're able to keep cleaning. And so they leave the kitchen cleaner than they find it. So while that is true, for a conditioned soul, the environment or the atmosphere affects them. Like I can tell from my experience, when my kids do certain schoolwork and the stuff is everywhere, I get irritated by it. So it affects my consciousness. And while clutter affects our mental health, I shouldn't say mental health, I don't want to go into that area, but clutter affects our consciousness. Similarly, cleanliness, purity affects our consciousness too. So I wanted to share that, a couple of years ago, we had gone to Utah for Sadhu Sangha retreat. So you can imagine thousands of devotees chanting of the holy name, uh, pure Krishna Prasadam, 3, 4 days of this chanting. And then we were driving back home to San Diego, but it was a long drive. So we decided to, halt that particular night. And the place closest was Las Vegas. So, we found a hotel that was nearest, or that was by the highway, went in, checked in, and immediately, we were still in that mood of having chanted with devotees when we entered the hotel. There were signs, right? Like, fries, and, you had whatever other things in that vending machine. There were bright lights. And so immediately, my then 6-year-old Govinda, he was probably 5 or 6, he immediately said, Ma, let's go from here. I don't like this place. So even children can sense how atmosphere can affect our consciousness. So here we see this is like the spiritual world. The Lord has come there. That Bindu Sarovar is from, it is said, drops of tears. And so, these verses remind me of Brahma Samhita, the last verse that we hear, right? Where every where every song word is a song, where every step is a dance. So it's almost like that. That the word is this environment is surcharged with spiritual energy. So that is one thing that I took away from these couple of verses here, 40 and 41. Then Prabhupada says something about, in the purport to text 40, he talks about pious trees and birds. And then he talks about different classes of men in human society. So we hear, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, the modes of nature are all described: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Similarly, we can find, for example, food in mode of goodness. Um, it is juicy, it is energy, nature, I mean, prana giving, it is natural, it is pure, it is fresh. And then so on and so forth. We have heard of food and passion, food and ignorance. Similarly, there are plants and trees that are, or birds that are in goodness and passion and ignorance. So my understanding is that these are all creepers, like the description is, trees that do not bear nice fruit or flowers are considered impious. And birds which are very nasty, like crows, are also considered impious. And uh, just a social commentary from this particular line that I felt inspired to speak is, um, everything about this material modern society rather is driven by pretty much passion and ignorance. We've gone so far away from this mode of goodness. We can see that even in our front yard, right? Like any of us that have an HOA, we know we have to have a lawn. The lawn has to be trimmed. There are certain allowed bushes. Some bushes are not allowed. And if you think about it, this modern civilization, there is not much thought being put into this. All we are concerned about is the optics. How does it look? If I put this home on um, Zillow or whatever, is it getting sold? That is what we are thinking about. But uh, and last year I was teaching a subject on earth sciences, and we talked about, so I'm going a little tangentially, and hopefully I'll come back and tie all the loose ends. I was teaching this earth science subject, and we learned about a dead zone in Gulf of Mexico, right? And so when the students and I researched, and we walked backwards, why is there a dead zone in Gulf of Mexico, far away, right? Texas and Louisiana, that side. We learned that the Mississippi was bringing in a lot of chemicals. And where are they coming from? They're coming from these smaller rivers that feeds into it. And what goes into those smaller rivers are your rain, the drainage for rainwater, right? And what gets into those rainwater? It's all the things that come from the lawn. And then the question is, why do we want to grow lawn? It does not give us fruits or flowers. It does not feed anybody. It's just for optics. And so, uh, on the other hand, if we were to plant some nice bushes, like, I don't know, strawberry bushes or blueberry bushes or something, people get fed. You attract those kinds of critters and natural things, and perhaps even excess can be given off to humans for consumption. Like, I remember when in San Diego, we every year during summer there would be some produce from a tree which was excessive, so we would put it in carts late, and it was so much that we couldn't consume it, so we would take it to temples, give it to friends, give it to neighbors, and the excess I would keep it in a cart in my front yard, and people would take it, those lemons and oranges. And so I was thinking, that is how far we have come away from natural way of living. So when our consciousness has strayed from who we are and our relationship with the Lord and His property, like the Ishavasim principle that's spoken of in Ishopanishad, we do things that are so far remote. It's not optimal solutions, suboptimal solutions we come up with. And the result is that, what we think of as solution has now become another problem to deal with. So we think, we need to have homes that are, the optics are great. So we come up with a solution. But then guess what? That solution, so-called solution, leads to another problem down the hill. So I wanted to go back and say, where is the solution for all this? Although that's not the mood of this purport. The mood of the purport is that what is being described, but I'll this is my inspiration from these two verses, is that when our consciousness is set right, when we understand who we are and we are servants of the Lord, and this whole environment is His and is meant to be used in His service, then everything becomes optimal. Everything becomes auspicious. So we can see in this very last line, there was not a single impious bird or a tree. Every bird sang the glories of the Lord. So similarly, we can see the flip side of this statement is also true. When we reinstate ourselves in this consciousness, when we chant the holy names, there we can see uh, piety and auspiciousness. All it comes up. So we can see there are places, right, where holy names are chanted, and you can see even in the cracks of the walls, tulsi grows. Here we have one tulsi tree, and we have our artificial lights, and we try our best to, serve her and take care of her. But wherever a holy name of the Lord is chanted and wherever there is piety and auspiciousness, other things automatically happen. And yeah, so just to wrap things up, it was a shorter class, but the things that I felt inspired by are the atmosphere influences our consciousness. And the flip is also true. Our consciousness, if we can set that right, then the material energy molds around our own consciousness as well. We can influence the environment and we can take smaller steps. Um, there are devotees who are inspired by Varnashrama, right? Like they have literally gone back to the roots. So many successful farm projects we hear in India and elsewhere as well. And that is devotees going back to, this concept of simple living and high thinking. And everything is wonderful over there. And in one sense, the rich people who are in New York or, anywhere, where do we go for vacation, right? We don't go to another city. We want to go to a place that is filled with goodness in nature, filled with, that's like almost the real wealth that the nature has given us. So, anyway, so those are the few points I wanted to share, that here we are in a transition. Kardama Muni has spoken with the Lord. He has actually received audience of the Lord, and now he's going to be visited by Swayambhuva Manu. So I want to pause here and hear any reflections, if you have any or any corrections.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare
Hare-
Krishna.
I joined late, so I missed some of the class. At the end, you were speaking about simple living and high thinking and cow protection, and I was just remembering one statement by His Holiness Hanumat Preshak Maharaj, where he says that our preaching will have more potency if there's more cow protection, because when we protect the cows, then we get the blessings of the cow, and she's very dear to Krishna. And then there's greater our movement will have more potency if there's more cow protection. So I was just remembering that statement by him as kind of a reflection to your statement.
Thank you, Prabhu. When I was preparing for these two verses, I read them a couple of days ago, and I was thinking, okay, what have devotees spoken? I try to find lectures that by speakers that I often gravitate to. I couldn't find them, but I heard some other devotees' lectures, and one devotee was sharing, kind of in your line. He said that, how in the modern world we have gravitated towards taking care of animals that are not in mode of goodness. Some devotees are also inspired to have dogs in their homes, but he was saying that that's not a creature in a mode of goodness, but a cow, not just in mode of goodness, but dear to Krishna. And what have we done? When we go to India, the cows are almost, sometimes it's a sorry state of affairs. She's rummaging through trash and there is plastic and everything, and here we are not taking care of her. But all auspiciousness comes when we take care of her because she is our mother and she is dear to Krishna. Yeah, thank you for that reflection.
Correct. Thank you so much. And I think you mentioned the environment influences the people, and the people also creates the environment, right? So I mean, I think if there are chunk of people, I mean, with mode of ignorance, and the environment automatically becomes something like that, right? When somebody else goes there and it gets influenced by that.
Yeah. Yeah, when I said that statement, I wanted to add that years ago we used to live in Bay Area, and we would receive in emails the book reports. So one particular report, they said the devotees were ecstatic. They would go, the ISV devotees would go door to door, distribute books and everything. And one particular report, they said Vaisheshika Prabhu went to a vape shop and he distributed books over there. And everybody was like, Jai, Haribol, Haribol. And I was thinking, devotees like him who are in they are not touched by environment. He is not influenced, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear, right? Like if Nityananda Prabhu goes to a place where lower modes of activities are done, you don't have any doubts about it. And I was thinking similarly, we are fortunate to have personalities like His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu who have shown us that as well. So sorry, I don't know if you were going to say something.
No, that's right, Mataji. I think, yeah, you completed it. But yeah, for general public, it is the other way. I mean, it's not going to happen. It's,
Yeah.
So then we need to create an environment that helps people to be in mode of goodness.
Mm. Um, that reminded me that I am trained as a Waldorf teacher, and so I worked in different grades as well. So one common thing that people would comment when they would come to a Waldorf kindergarten classroom was they were taken in by the environment of that place. Typical public school or any other classrooms, they have a lot of colors, they have plastic toys and a lot of things that make noise. In a Waldorf classroom, everything is made out of natural material. So automatically when children would come in, I could see that their mood was like they were not rambunctious. They were very much sattvic. You could teach them or you could mold them in that particular environment. And parents who came there, who visited those classrooms, they were immediately, they wondered what was special about that place. So, yeah. All right. I think if there's nothing else, we'll wrap up for today. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।